What if your boss could hear everything you said when you thought no one important was listening? What if the CEO of a $100 million company traded his Armani suit for worn coveralls and a fake mustache to work alongside the very people who built his empire? This is exactly what happened at Donovan Luxury Furnishings. William Donovan had it all: a thriving business, a mansion in the hills, and employees who feared him more than respected him. But something felt off about the glowing reports from his VP of operations. The numbers were too perfect. The employee satisfaction scores too high. Something dark was lurking beneath the surface of his successful company. So William made a decision that would change everything. He became Bill, the new maintenance worker with grease-stained hands and a bad back. What he discovered in just 48 hours working on his own factory floor would shake him to his core. He found machines held together with duct tape and prayers. Safety equipment bought with workers' own wages. A young man working himself to death to pay for his mother's cancer treatments. And a corrupt executive who was bleeding the company dry while good people suffered. But it wasn't until William overheard two workers talking behind him, sharing secrets about theft, embezzlement, and a conspiracy that reached the highest levels of his company, that he realized just how blind he'd been. What happens when a boss discovers his most trusted executive has been stealing millions? When he learns that workers are being threatened, fired, and cheated out of their pensions? When he finds out that everything he built is based on lies? Sometimes karma comes for those who deserve it. Sometimes justice appears in the form of a CEO with a fake mustache. And sometimes the most powerful people in the room are the ones holding the wrenches. William Donovan stared at his reflection in the cracked mirror of the factory's dingy bathroom. The man looking back at him was a stranger. Gone was his $1,000 suit, replaced by worn coveralls with Bill stitched on the pocket. At 52 years old, he'd built Donovan Luxury Furnishings from nothing into a $100 million empire. But somewhere along the way, he'd lost touch with the people who made it all possible. The disguise wasn't perfect, but it would do. A fake mustache, work boots, and a baseball cap transformed the polished CEO into just another maintenance worker. William had made his decision after reading the quarterly reports. The numbers were stellar, profits soaring, but something felt off. Too many employee complaints had been dismissed as standard workplace grievances by his VP of operations, Dennis Crawford. Today, William would see his factory through different eyes. The morning shift bell rang as he stepped onto the production floor. The familiar scent of fresh-cut wood and industrial varnish filled his nostrils, but this time, he noticed things his executive tours had missed. Ventilation fans rattled with age. Safety guards on several machines were held together with duct tape. Workers moved with practiced caution around equipment that should have been replaced years ago. "You the new guy?" a gravelly voice called out. William turned to find Tom Rodriguez, a man in his early 60s with weathered hands and kind eyes. Employee files had mentioned Tom, 35 years with the company, never missed a day. "Yes, sir, Bill Stevens." William extended his hand, surprised by the firm grip he received in return. "Tom Rodriguez. Been here since your daddy probably wore short pants." Tom chuckled. "Come on, I'll show you the ropes. Management says you're working with me and Jake today." They walked past the assembly line where workers crafted the high-end furniture that graced mansions and luxury hotels. William had always taken pride in the quality, but now he saw the human cost. Workers hunched over their stations, some wearing back braces, others with bandaged fingers. "Meet Jake Morrison." Tom gestured to a young man tinkering with a grinding machine. Jake couldn't have been more than 23, with bright eyes that spoke of ambition despite his oil-stained hands. "Welcome to the trenches," Jake grinned, wiping grease on his coveralls. "Hope you're ready to get dirty." William spent the morning learning what his MBA never taught him. Tom showed him how to coax life from machines that should have been retired. Jake demonstrated quick fixes that kept production moving when proper repairs were denied. Every lesson came with stories, close calls, near misses, and creative solutions born from necessity. "See this drill press?" Tom pointed to a machine held together with wire and determination. "Put in 7 repair requests this year alone." "Dennis keeps saying there's no budget, but I heard him bragging about the new company car he just got." William's jaw tightened. Dennis Crawford had assured him all equipment met safety standards. The quarterly maintenance reports showed everything in perfect working order. During the lunch break, William sat with Tom and Jake in the break room, a far cry from the executive dining room he usually frequented. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead, and the vending machine offered the same selection it probably had for decades. "You got family, Bill?" Jake asked between bites of his sandwich. "A daughter," William answered truthfully. "She's away at college." Lucky her, Jake's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I had to drop out to help Mom with her medical bills. But hey, this place pays the bills, mostly." Tom patted Jake's shoulder with fatherly affection. "Kid works harder than anyone I know. Does the work of 3 men some days." As they returned to the floor, William noticed things his executive reports never captured. The way workers looked over their shoulders when supervisors passed. The quiet solidarity when someone needed help. The resignation in their eyes when equipment malfunctioned again. "Careful with that lathe," Tom warned as William approached the machine. "Safety shield's been broken for months. We jerry-rigged something, but you gotta watch yourself." William examined the makeshift guard, a piece of plexiglass held with zip ties. His signature was on documents claiming all safety equipment met OSHA standards. How many other lies had he unknowingly endorsed? The afternoon brought a crisis when a conveyor belt snapped, sending half-finished furniture crashing to the floor. Instead of stopping production for proper repairs, the supervisor demanded a quick fix. "Just get it running," the supervisor barked before storming off. "We're behind quota." William watched Tom and Jake spring into action. They worked with the precision of surgeons, hands moving in practiced harmony. Within 20 minutes, they had the belt operational again, though William could see it was another temporary solution. "How often does this happen?" William asked, genuinely concerned. "More than it should," Tom replied, wiping sweat from his brow. "But what choice do we have? They'll fire anyone who slows down production." As the day wore on, William's shame grew. He built his success on principles of quality and employee care, or so he'd thought. The reality was a workforce pushed to its limits, maintaining his profits through sheer determination and ingenuity. Near shift's end, William was adjusting a particularly stubborn valve when he heard Jake and Tom talking behind him. Their voices were low, but the empty corner of the factory carried their words clearly. "I don't know how much longer I can do this, Tom." Jake's voice cracked with exhaustion. "I'm already working 60 hours a week, and it's still not enough." "I know, son. I know," Tom replied gently. William pretended to focus on the valve, but his ears strained to catch every word. What he heard next made his blood run cold. "Did you hear what Dennis did to Maria?" Jake continued, his voice dropping even lower. "She wouldn't sign off on those defective chair frames, said they were unsafe. Dennis fired her on the spot. She's got 3 kids, Tom. 3 kids and no job now. That man's got no soul," Tom muttered. "But what can we do? You cross Dennis, you're done. Look what happened to Patricia from safety. She tried to report the real conditions here, and where is she now?" William's hands trembled on the wrench. Patricia Wells, the safety inspector. He remembered signing her termination papers 6 months ago. Dennis had said she was creating unnecessary panic with her reports. "It gets worse," Jake whispered. "I overheard Dennis on the phone yesterday. He's planning something big. Something about the accident last week, the one where Mike got hurt." "What about it?" Tom's voice tensed. "Dennis is going to blame you for it. Says you've been negligent with maintenance. He wants to force you out without your pension, Tom." After 35 years, the wrench slipped from William's fingers, clattering to the floor. Both men stopped talking immediately. William quickly picked it up, pretending he hadn't heard anything, but his mind raced. Dennis Crawford, his trusted VP, the man he'd relied on for operational oversight, was not just incompetent, he was corrupt. "Everything okay there, Bill?" Tom called out, concern in his voice. "Just clumsy," William managed, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "These old hands aren't what they used to be." As the shift bell rang, William's head spun with revelations. Tomorrow he would hear more. Tomorrow he would learn exactly how deep Dennis's corruption ran. But already he knew that William Donovan, CEO, had failed the very people who built his empire. Walking to his car in the employee lot, still in his maintenance worker disguise, William felt the weight of every decision he'd made from his ivory tower. The expensive consultants, the efficiency experts, the cost-cutting measures, they had all painted a picture that served the bottom line while hiding the human truth. He sat in his modest rental car, watching his employees leave for the day. They walked with tired steps but straight backs, dignity intact despite everything. Tom helped Jake carry tools to his beat-up truck. Other workers called out goodbyes, sharing jokes that lightened the burden of another hard day. These were his people. He lost sight of that fundamental truth. Tomorrow would bring more revelations, William was certain. But already, the shape of what he needed to do was forming in his mind. Dennis Crawford would answer for his actions. The workers who had suffered would see justice. And William Donovan would remember what it meant to lead with integrity. As he drove away from the factory, the setting sun painted the sky in shades of orange and red. It felt like an omen, the end of one era and the beginning of another. William had gone undercover to see his business clearly. What he discovered was his own conscience. The game was about to change at Donovan Luxury Furnishings. Dennis Crawford just didn't know it yet. The next morning, William arrived at the factory before dawn. His bones ached from yesterday's manual labor, a reminder of what his workers endured daily. He found Tom already at his station, nursing a cup of coffee from a thermos. "You're here early, Bill," Tom noted with approval. "Most new guys take a few days to show that kind of dedication." "Couldn't sleep," William replied honestly. His mind had raced all night with the revelations about Dennis Crawford. "Figured I might as well be useful." Jake rushed in just as the morning bell rang, dark circles under his eyes telling their own story. He'd mentioned something about a second job yesterday, and now William could see the toll it was taking. "Sorry, I'm almost late," Jake said breathlessly. "My mom had a rough night. Had to wait for the morning nurse." "Your mother's sick?" William asked, trying to sound like a concerned coworker rather than an investigating CEO. "Cancer," Jake answered simply, focusing on the machinery to avoid eye contact. "Treatment's expensive, even with the company insurance. That's why well, you know how it is." William did not, in fact, know how it was. His own comprehensive healthcare package included coverage most employees could only dream about. He made a mental note to review the worker insurance policies immediately. The morning shift began with its usual chaos of machines roaring to life and orders being shouted across the floor. William was assigned to help Tom service equipment in the finishing department, where toxic fumes from varnish and wood stain made his eyes water despite the supposedly adequate ventilation. "Here, take this." Tom handed him a worn respirator. "The company-issued ones aren't worth spit. I bought these myself. They actually filter the chemicals. Must get expensive buying your own safety equipment," William observed. Tom shrugged. "What's money compared to breathing?" "Though Dennis keeps saying we're making up the fumes issue. Says the air quality tests come back fine every month." "Who does the testing?" "Some company Dennis hired. Funny thing is, they never seem to come when we're actually running the heavy finishing work." As they worked, more workers began arriving for the mid-morning shift. William noticed Maria Vasquez's name on the schedule board, crossed out in red ink, a reminder of yesterday's revelation about her firing. During the first break, William sat with Tom and Jake in a corner of the break room. Other workers gave them space, respecting the older man's unofficial role as shop floor elder statesman. "Tom," Jake said quietly, glancing around to ensure no supervisors were near, "I need to tell you something. About Dennis. What's he done now?" Tom's weathered hands tightened around his coffee mug. "Remember those metal shipments that went missing last month? The ones Dennis blamed on the night shift?" Tom nodded grimly. "I saw his personal truck here at 2 a.m. last Sunday. Was driving for Uber to make extra cash and had to come back for my phone charger. He was loading boxes into his truck. The same boxes that turned up missing Monday morning." William fought to keep his expression neutral. Theft of company property was a serious crime, but what Jake said next was even worse. "That's not all. Yesterday after you left, I was fixing that broken conveyor in shipping. Dennis didn't see me behind the machinery. He was on the phone, laughing about his new beach house. Said something about how these idiots will never figure out the inventory system. Then he mentioned something about offshore accounts." Tom's face darkened. "That explains why we're always short on materials while he's driving a new Mercedes." "There's more," Jay continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "You know how Dennis has been handling all the worker comp claims? I found out from Rita in accounting that he's been denying legitimate claims and pocketing the insurance payouts. The guy who got hurt last week. Dennis denied his claim, said the accident was due to employee negligence. But I was there, Tom. That machine failed because maintenance was denied 6 times." William's fist clenched. He personally signed off on a budget that included full maintenance funding. Where had that money gone? The conversation was interrupted by commotion on the factory floor. Workers were gathering around a delivery truck, voices raised in anger. "What's going on?" William asked as they joined the crowd. "Another shipment of defective materials," a worker named Carlos explained. "Third one this month." But watch what happens next. Dennis Crawford appeared, his expensive suit a stark contrast to the workers' coveralls. He surveyed the damaged materials with theatrical disappointment. "This is unacceptable," Dennis announced loudly. "I'll have to dock this from the quality bonus pool. Maybe if you all were more careful with handling procedures." "But sir," Carlos protested, "these were damaged when they arrived." The delivery driver even noted it on the manifest. "I don't want excuses," Dennis snapped. "I want results. The workers need to take responsibility for these losses." William watched in disgust as Dennis berated the employees for something clearly beyond their control. He knew from executive meetings that Dennis had switched to a cheaper supplier 3 months ago. The savings went straight to the bottom line, while workers paid the price and lost bonuses. After Dennis left, the mood on the floor was dark. Tom pulled William and Jake aside. "Boys, I've got something to show you. Been debating whether to use it, but after this..." He pulled out his phone, keeping it concealed from security cameras. "Been recording Dennis for weeks now. Got video of him loading those missing materials into his truck. Got him on tape threatening workers too." "Tom, that's evidence of criminal activity," Jake said excitedly. "We could go to the police and lose our jobs. Who's going to believe factory workers over a VP? Besides, I heard Dennis has connections. The police chief's his golf buddy." William's mind raced. As CEO, he could act on this information immediately. But he needed to understand the full scope of Dennis's corruption. "What else do you have on that phone?" William asked carefully. Tom scrolled through videos. Got him taking kickbacks from suppliers. Got him falsifying safety reports. Here's one where he's coaching a supervisor on how to intimidate workers into unpaid overtime. "There's something else you should know," Jake interjected. "About Maria. The real reason she was fired. She didn't just refuse to sign off on defective furniture. She caught Dennis selling her premium materials to competitors and substituting cheaper stuff. She was going to report it to Mr. Donovan himself." "Fat chance of that," Tom scoffed. "Donovan lives in an ivory tower. Probably doesn't even know we exist." The words hit William like a physical blow. Is that truly how his workers saw him? An absent, uncaring figurehead? "Actually," Jake said, "I heard Donovan's not a bad guy. Just disconnected. My cousin works at the corporate office. Says Donovan built this company on treating people right. It's the executives under him who've gone rotten." "Maybe," Tom said doubtfully. "But where's he been while Dennis bleeds us dry?" Their conversation was interrupted by an announcement over the PA system. "Tom Rodriguez to the administrative office." "Tom Rodriguez to administration immediately." Tom's face went pale. "This is it. Dennis is making his move." "I'm coming with you," Jake said immediately. "Me too," William added. "No," Tom shook his head. "You boys stay here. Don't need you getting caught up in my troubles." But as Tom walked away, William and Jake exchanged glances and quietly followed at a distance. They positioned themselves outside the administrative office, close enough to hear through the thin walls. Dennis's voice carried clearly, dripping with false concern. "Tom, I'm afraid we need to discuss your performance. There have been concerns about your maintenance work. The accident last week in particular." "What about it?" Tom's voice was steady but tense. "Your negligence led to a worker injury. We can't have that kind of liability." "That's a lie, and you know it. I reported that machine needed repairs 6 times. You denied every request." "I have no record of such reports," Dennis said smoothly. "In fact, I have documentation showing you've been cutting corners on maintenance. I'm afraid we'll have to let you go. And given the circumstances, there won't be a pension." 35 years I've given this company," Tom's voice cracked. 35 years, and this is how you treat me? It's just business, Tom. Clean out your locker. Security will escort you out." William felt rage boiling in his chest. He was about to burst into the office when Jake grabbed his arm. "Wait," Jake whispered urgently. "Look." A group of workers had gathered in the hallway. Word had spread quickly about Tom's situation. Their faces showed a mix of anger and fear. "We can't let this happen," Carlos said quietly. "First Maria, now Tom. Who's next? What can we do?" Another worker asked. "Dennis holds all the cards." "Maybe not," Jake said, stepping forward. "Tom has videos. Evidence of what Dennis has been doing." "Videos won't help if we all get fired," someone muttered. Through the office window, they could see Dennis making a phone call, probably to security. Tom sat with his head in his hands, a broken man watching his life's work crumble. William knew he had to act, but revealing himself now would only solve Tom's immediate problem. The rot went deeper. He needed to expose everything. "Jake," William said quietly, "those videos on Tom's phone. Can you get them? He gave me his password last week when he needed help with something." "Why?" "Because we're about to turn the tables on Dennis Crawford." As security arrived to escort Tom out, William's mind was already forming a plan. He had one more day of being billed a maintenance worker. One more day to gather all the evidence he needed. Tomorrow, Dennis Crawford would learn what happened when you betrayed the trust of William Donovan. But first, he had to watch his loyal employee of 35 years be humiliated and escorted from the building like a common criminal. The other workers stood in silent solidarity as Tom passed, their eyes promising this injustice would not be forgotten. "This isn't over," Jake whispered to Tom as he passed. Tom managed a weak smile. "Take care of yourself, son. All of you, watch your backs." As Tom disappeared around the corner with security, William felt something fundamental shift inside him. He'd built this company to create something good in the world. Instead, he created a system that allowed predators like Dennis to feast on the vulnerable. That would end tomorrow. Dennis Crawford had no idea what was coming. The afternoon passed in a blur of barely contained anger. Workers moved through their routines mechanically, the joy sucked out of the workplace by Tom's dismissal. William used the time to document everything he could, taking photos with Jake's phone of safety violations, defective materials, and falsified reports. As the shift ended, Jake pulled William aside. "I got into Tom's phone. The videos are worse than I thought. Dennis isn't just stealing. He's got a whole network. Other executives are involved. Send everything to this email address," William said, writing down his personal secretary's contact. "Don't use the company's system. What are you planning, Bill? You're not just some maintenance worker, are you?" William looked at the young man who worked 2 jobs to care for his dying mother, who stayed loyal despite every reason to leave, who fought for justice even when it put his own livelihood at risk. "Tomorrow, Jake. Tomorrow, everything changes. Trust me." As William walked to his car, he saw Dennis leaving in his Mercedes, probably heading to that beach house built with stolen money. Enjoy it while you can, William thought grimly. Because tomorrow, Dennis Crawford would face a reckoning. The videos on Tom's phone would ensure that. But more than that, William Donovan himself would stand before his workers and admit his failures. He would make things right. Tomorrow, justice would come to Donovan Luxury Furnishings. The morning air crackled with tension as workers filed into the factory. News of Tom's firing had spread through the night shift, and angry whispers filled the break room. William arrived early again, this time with a different purpose. Today, Dennis Crawford would answer for his crimes. Jake appeared at William's side, exhausted but determined. "I sent those videos like you asked. Got confirmation they were received." "Good. Now we wait for the right moment." That moment came sooner than expected. Dennis strutted onto the factory floor at 9 a.m., clipboard in hand, ready to conduct one of his intimidation tours. He stopped at Jake's station, a predatory smile on his face. "Morrison," Dennis announced loudly, ensuring all nearby workers could hear. "I need to speak with you about your time card irregularities." Jake's face paled, but he stood his ground. "What irregularities?" "Says here you've been clocking in early, staying late, working unauthorized overtime. That's theft of company resources." "I'm just trying to get the work done, sir." "Well, that's going to stop. In fact, I think we need to reevaluate your position here entirely." William watched as Dennis began the same routine he'd used on Tom. The public humiliation, the false accusations, the threat of termination. Around them, workers stopped their tasks, sensing something significant was about to happen. Furthermore, Dennis continued, his voice dripping with false authority. "I've discovered you've been accessing restricted files. Personnel records, financial documents. Care to explain? I haven't accessed anything beyond my clearance, Jake protested. Don't lie to me, Morrison. I have the IT logs right here. You've been snooping around where you don't belong. That's grounds for immediate termination with cause. No severance, no unemployment benefits. Dennis pulled out his phone, presumably to call security. And since you seem so interested in our financial records, let me be clear. After we prosecute you for corporate espionage, you'll be liable for damages. Hope your sick mother has a good lawyer. The cruelty of that last comment snapped something inside William. He stepped forward from the crowd of workers. Actually, Dennis, I think you're the one who needs a lawyer. Dennis turned, irritated at the interruption. Who the hell do you think you're talking to, maintenance man? William reached up and pulled off his fake mustache, removed his cap, and straightened to his full height. Your boss. The color drained from Dennis's face as recognition dawned. Gasps rippled through the gathered workers. Mr. Donovan, Dennis stammered. What are you? I don't understand. I understand perfectly, William said, his voice carrying across the now silent factory floor. I understand you've been stealing from this company. I understand you've been taking kickbacks, falsifying safety reports, and denying legitimate worker compensation claims. That's ridiculous. I would never. I have videos, Dennis. Videos of you loading stolen inventory into your personal vehicle. Videos of you coaching supervisors on how to intimidate workers. Phone recordings of you discussing your offshore accounts. Dennis's phone clattered to the floor. Around them, workers began to gather closer, their faces a mixture of shock and vindication. And that's not all, William continued. I know about Maria Vasquez. How you fired her when she discovered you were selling our premium materials to competitors. I know about Tom Rodriguez, a man who gave 35 years to this company, who spent his own money keeping our workers safe while you denied critical repairs. You can't prove any of this, Dennis said desperately. Actually, I can. The IT department has been monitoring your activities since last night when I received Tom's evidence. We found the second set of books you've been keeping. We've traced the offshore accounts. As if on cue, security arrived, but not the usual factory guards. These were corporate security, accompanied by 2 police officers. Dennis Crawford, one of the officers, announced, You're under arrest for embezzlement, grand theft, fraud, and racketeering. You can't do this. Dennis shouted as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. I have connections. I'll sue all of you. Your connections won't help you now, William replied calmly. Oh, and Dennis, that beach house you bought with stolen money? It's being seized as we speak. As the police led Dennis away, William turned to address his workers. The entire factory floor had gathered, machines sitting idle. I owe all of you an apology, William began, his voice thick with emotion. I built this company on principles of respect and fair treatment. Somewhere along the way, I lost sight of those values. I trusted the wrong people and failed to see what was happening to the workers who make this company great. He paused, looking at the faces around him, tired, skeptical, but beginning to show hope. Effective immediately, Tom Rodriguez is reinstated with full back pay and an apology bonus of a year's salary. Maria Vasquez will receive the same offer to return, plus compensation for wrongful termination. Murmurs of approval rippled through the crowd. Jake Morrison, William continued, finding the young man in the crowd, you've shown integrity and courage. You're promoted to quality control supervisor with a salary that reflects your dedication. And your mother's medical bills, they're covered. Fully. We're also establishing a proper employee health fund to ensure no one else has to work themselves to death to afford medical care. Jake's eyes filled with tears. Around him, workers began to applaud. But this is just the beginning, William declared. Every safety issue will be addressed immediately. Every piece of faulty equipment will be replaced. Every worker who's been denied overtime pay will be compensated. And every one of you will receive a bonus from the funds we're recovering from Dennis's theft. The applause grew louder, but William held up his hand. I spent 2 days working alongside you. I saw your dedication, your creativity, your loyalty to each other. You deserved better leadership, and you're going to get it. We're implementing worker representation on the board. Regular town halls where you can speak directly to management. And anonymous reporting systems that bypass the corporate hierarchy. He looked around at his employees, his people, and felt the weight of responsibility settle properly on his shoulders for the first time in years. This company was built by workers like you. It's time it was run for workers like you." The factory erupted in cheers. Workers embraced, some crying with relief. Others rushed forward to shake William's hand or pat his back. Through the crowd, he saw Tom Rodriguez returning, escorted by security with a very different demeanor than yesterday. "Tom," William called out, meeting the older man halfway. "I'm sorry. For everything." Tom studied his face for a long moment, then extended his weathered hand. "Takes a big man to admit when he's wrong, Mr. Donovan. Even bigger to make it right." As they shook hands, William noticed Jake approaching with his phone. "Mr. Donovan? The local news wants to know if you'll give a statement about Dennis Crawford's arrest." William considered for a moment, then nodded. "Tell them the truth. Tell them Donovan Luxury Furnishings is returning to its roots. And tell them we're hiring because we're going to need good people to help rebuild this company the right way." Epilogue. 6 months later, Donovan Luxury Furnishings reported its best quarter ever. Not just financially, but in employee satisfaction and safety metrics. William Donovan continued his practice of working monthly shifts on the factory floor. Tom Rodriguez was appointed Senior Safety Director. Jake Morrison oversaw a quality control department that became the industry standard. Dennis Crawford was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. His ill-gotten assets were seized and distributed among the workers he'd exploited. The beach house was sold, with proceeds funding the new employee health program. Maria Vasquez returned as head of ethics and compliance, ensuring no corrupt executive could ever again prey on vulnerable workers. The story of the CEO who went undercover and discovered his conscience became a case study in business schools. But the real change wasn't in the headlines or financial reports. It was in the break-room conversations where workers no longer spoke in whispers. It was in the safety equipment that actually worked. It was in the dignity restored to people who had never stopped believing in the value of honest work. William Donovan had learned the most valuable lesson of his career. A company's true worth isn't measured in profits, but in the lives of the people who build it every day. And Dennis Crawford. His prison cell overlooked a furniture factory, where every day he could watch workers arriving for honest jobs with fair wages. They say karma has a sense of humor. Sometimes, justice comes dressed in coveralls.